Yeah, there's some darkness on the edge of town. So the pizza guy's gonna come. And I'm gonna have to stop for a minute and go get pizza. So we'll be interrupted shortly, but I'm waiting for some delivery. Pizza Pirates, really good. That's actually really good pizza. So I got that coming for dinner. Thanks everybody for joining me. We want to talk tonight about what's going on with the 6-liter, why the 6.0 won't blow. I came up with that by myself. Pretty clever stuff. I'm going to go over as soon as we get a bunch of people here, and after I have a slice of pizza, and just for a second, I was over working on my storage area, and my buddy Mark Sanchez gave me a bunch of shelving because it was a mess. I have 2 of them over there, and one of them was just getting out of control. So I had to rush to move everything in there all at once. And so I just grabbed everything and threw it in there, and you should never do that. But I had to put some shelving up so that I could, get stuff up off the ground and make all that work. So I'm going to put some more shelving up, and I like it to be organized, and it's all dusty in there now. So I need to, and unfortunately, there's nowhere to plug anything in. So I'd like to bring a compressor over there, an air nozzle, and spray everything out. But I can get a broom and broom that stuff out. But it gets so dusty in there. I'm surprised how dusty it is. So I was doing some of that today. I also was working on the Mike Finnegan's turbo deal, which is going to be cool. I'm excited about running that. Jason from JT Fab is over there welding up the exhaust. He's been sending me some photos, and we just want to make sure that everything's in the right place and stuff, obviously, before you make that permanent. And that's very important. But hopefully, as soon as that's done, that I can get that up on the dyno and run that as well. But I'm still trying to scratch my head over this 6-liter, and we'll talk about that. Eric, thank you. I know, Tim 6.0, I know. But the 499 will help. That'll at least help me hydrate and consider my options of what's going on here. I just took the filter off because I want to cut the filter open, and I just want to make sure. I don't see how it could be hurt. This thing has gone through way worse than this. I mean, we've run this thing over 1,000 horsepower again and again and again and again. It just keeps going. So, and I had taken it apart right before we ran it, right before NA, as a matter of fact. I took it apart so I could put sealant on the head studs, and that halfway worked. As it turned out, I had to take a couple of them back out because they were leaking water again. And this time I just used silicone. I tried using thread sealer, but the stuff that we had wasn't it wasn't thick. It was a little too watery for my taste, and it just didn't seal it up well enough. So I put silicone in there, and that seems to have done the trick. So hopefully that's all done. And then we ran it NA, and the thing ran perfect. I mean, it made 530 with that 227 cam, and the truck manifold, which is about where I thought it would be. That's kind of what I was thinking. I was thinking it was going to be 525-ish or something, and it came in right there. So that worked out good. It made 500. And so I was excited about that. And then we put the blower on. It just never, I was talking to the guys from Mac Daddy Parts earlier, telling them that before we were able to make one pull and fully load this thing and make some sort of pull, even from 3,000 to 5,000 RPM, even a short sweep, I'd already gone through 10 gallons of fuel. So we went through 10 gallons of fuel just fighting this thing and getting it to work. I changed everything. We tried everything. And those are some of the things that we're going to go over on. I got a lot of response from the video because I was asking people to comment and tell me what they thought it was. I'm hoping somebody thinks of something that we haven't already checked. But it's not valve springs, because valve float doesn't occur at 4,500 RPM. Besides, we'd already run the thing to 67 when the thing was NA, and boost doesn't really change it that much. It's not the ignition being blown. We have 19 thousandths gap on the plugs. They're the same ones that we ran on the 4.8. We tried changing plugs. We tried changing so that we'll get rid of all of the stuff right away. To try to fix this, we changed the plugs, the wires, the coil packs, the harness, the crank sensor. We don't have a cam sensor hooked up. It's just running batch right now. So we changed. We didn't change the actual Holley ECU, but we're assuming that works. I don't think it's any of those things. I think that it's something else. Eventually I changed the injectors, and it seemed to get a little better when I took the big injectors out, and I'm going to flow them, and I haven't done that yet. That's another thing that I want to try and make sure that something's not going on with those. But we put the 80s in because the 80s are more than big enough, even running E85, for the power level that we're at. So that's not it. It's, and even with the 80s, it's reacting the same way. It's not taking it. We thought it might be opening the bypass valve, or the belt could be slipping. We took the belt off. I wanted to make sure that the blower's not dragging, that it's not locking up, that the power steering's not locking up, because we just have the power steering looped. So I made sure that there's fluid in there and that spins around really nice. Made sure that the water pump is not, locked up and dragging. We were just checking all of the possible things. I just went back now just a little bit ago before I got on here and was checking the bypass valve, because I wanted to make sure that I remember when we took the blower off and set it down and took it off and set it down, that there's a cable that runs underneath there, and I want to make sure that we didn't tweak the mounts for the cable and hold the valve open a little bit, and so it's not allowing it to shut all the way, but it seems like it's shutting all the way. All of that stuff seems like it's working the way that it should, and I don't remember leaving any. Somebody suggested, did you leave a rag on on the manifold, which and people laugh at that, and I'm laughing at it, but we've done that before. We didn't leave a rag on the intake. Two things happened. One, so this is a good story. We were testing with Mahovitz, and we were testing a centrifugal Vortec on a mod motor, and there was one of the red shop rags, and it was sitting on a table, and the table was close enough to the inlet of the blower, unfortunately. And so he's making a pull, and while the thing is revving up, you can see the rag start going, ooh, and then all of a sudden it goes, whew, jumps right into the inlet of the blower, and it locked the blower up and broke the blower. So we know that that's possible. The other thing that happened to me personally was when I was running World Challenge, I was driving a Mustang and SCCA World Challenge. My crew chief, Bernie, we were working on the carburetor, so we had an air cleaner and a cowl hood, and so we took the air cleaner off and stuck a blue towel on it, and we were doing stuff, and we were, they called us up to the grid, so we got to go. So we put everything back on, we're tightening everything, got to jump to the car, and the motor would start, and then when you give it throttle, it would immediately die. So we're like, what the heck's going on? We're starting it, and mind you, they're calling us to go start the race. They're calling us to the grid, and it would start, and then we're like, what the heck? How did this happen? And we're like, oh yeah. So we took the air cleaner lid off and took the towel, took the blue. It was like the little pull-out blue rags or whatever, paper towels. And when we took that off and it started up, and it was all just fine. But that sort of thing happened, so I wanted to make sure that that's not an issue. So I can take a look in there, but I have to take the blower off. I don't remember putting anything on there. We just had the open adapters to put the blower on, and that all seems to work fairly well. And it also was making it was making torque. It's making 645 foot-pounds or so at 4,500, and then it just crashed. That's why when I was thinking today that, man, if there's any way that the bypass valve could be opening, but we should see a big drop in boost, and we're only seeing like, half to 3/4 of a pound of drop in boost, which I would expect near the torque peak anyway. So I don't know what it is. It's not valve float. It's not the spark plugs. It's not the wire. It's not the coil pack. We have between 4 and 4.5 milliseconds of dwell on there, so all that's the way that we normally run it. Yeah, I don't know. I'm looking now at the oil, and I'm going to filter out, make sure that there's no bearing material in there, make sure that we're not losing a thrust bearing, because if you lose a thrust bearing, the power will just start falling and falling and falling. It doesn't normally do what this is, but we're looking at everything. So if you guys have any suggestions while I'm waiting for my pizza to arrive, and you guys can have dinner with me, because I've not eaten yet. I just want to see if that guy was there. So let me know what you guys think. The inlet tube is exactly the same as the one that we ran on the 4.8. It's we had to work around a little bit because it has that big standoff in the valley cover for the oil sensor, which the early block does not have. That's actually in the block. So, but the tube still fits in there, and it's not, it's an aluminum tube, so it's not even dented or anything. We're not destroying anything in the airflow. So the airflow should be exactly the same, at least as much as it was with the 4.8. So we should have more power. And if this was a situation where it was an inlet restriction, again, like a throttle body, we would see the thing make boost, and then it would start to taper off kind of gradually as that thing became more and more restrictive. But we're not seeing that. So that's not it. The fuel that we're using is E85, the same E85 that we use in everything that, I just go get it from the thing that we run. And again, we're talking 21 or 22 degrees of timing. We're talking 8 pounds of boost. None of that that could run on E25 and not have a problem. That could almost run, because we don't have 21 or 22 degrees where we're loading it. We only have that at the power peak. So where we're loading it, I think we only have 13 or 14. So at 8 pounds of boost with an intercooler on it, I think you could probably do that just on 91. So that might also be something we could try. But I don't think it's the fuel, judging by what we've done in the past with it. So what do you guys think? Let me know. Yeah, Mountain, that's another good idea, and that's what we were considering, is to put it back to NA, and that's always what we do, is go do an ABA test to make sure. I usually do that after we did the Big Bang stuff, like on this motor, we put it back to NA just to make sure that it isn't starting to hurt itself. So if we put it back to NA and it runs the same power number, you're like, oh, it's still sealed up, still happy. If it's down 20, you're like, oh yeah, the ring seal is probably starting to go away or something's happening. There's no crankcase pressure because we have it vented to atmosphere. We have a big opening on the valve cover. We have the factory one on the driver's side, and then we have a big open tube basically that just dangles in the back of the motor, so that there's no crankcase pressure. I don't even like the factory stuff. I think it's kind of restrictive unless you're drawing that in, but we don't like to do that. Jesse, the crank key is still there. It's not you were thinking that the balancer was slipping. If the balancer was slipping, we would see a drop in boost. But the pin that's in it is still there. And I've been through we went through that with the 4.8. When I put the 4.8 on there, we put it on there with just tightening the crank, and we saw everything worked fine. And then the boost would fall off, not a lot, but it would fall off, it would tail off a little bit, kind of like when the belt slips on a pulley when you don't have enough wrap or the other things. But we saw that a little bit, and then we went and pinned the crank, and then it was all fine. I still have questions about spark coil issues. Well, we changed the coil packs and the plugs and the wires. So and we put a brand new set of coil packs on that just came off of a crate motor. So I don't think it's that. The computer can't pull timing. We don't have it run in any sort of closed loop fashion. There's nothing that would allow it to do that. And Cole, we have a 2.5 bar map sensor, and we can watch the thing is tracking right, and we log it too, so we know what the timing is. Scoob, I think there's probably, I'm thinking 6 or 7 pulls where we were trying to see what it would do. If the adapters were leaking, because I went through that with the 4.8, where I tried putting the Felpro kind of paper gaskets on there in between the adapter and the head, and you can't do that. You actually have to use the truck ones, because these were designed to run the truck gaskets because they're thicker. Otherwise, we did leak. It did leak, but we saw that immediately when we started it up. It has a big vacuum leak, and it wants to idle at 5,000 RPM. So that's probably not it. Jason, we don't know the air temp, so I didn't hook any of that up yet. The fuel flow is fine. We have lambda meters. We tried swapping out on both sides. James, we run the factory coils on all the Big Bang stuff. I know, Jesse, you can keep wanting it to be that, but since we changed the harness, we checked all of the grounds and we changed the coil pack. So the odds of 2 coil packs both being bad in the same cylinder or the same 2 cylinders or whatever would be pretty remote. The go for broke, the spark plugs are colder. They're already at 9. Yeah, we checked the bypass valve. Seems like it's shut. The plug gap's at 19, so it's not that. Fascist O2s don't control the fueling. I do. I don't. We look at the air fuel that the dyno readout gives us, and then I adjust accordingly. I don't run closed loop. Well, it's only open loop. We just ran the blower on another engine. We ran it on the 4.8. Jesse, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a compression test and a leak down on it to see if there's something there. Yeah, we're going to do I want to do a test. We're going to do a compression test. John, the ignition time is not showing anything on the when we do the log. Yeah, it definitely is the wrong cam though. I don't know if the rotors are coated on this blower or not. I'd have to look in there and see. John, that's always a possibility. Yeah, James, I've talked to people about doing standing mileage, half mile stuff. That would be fun in that car. I go for broke. I don't think what's happening here, I don't think indicates that the blower is necessarily too small, because we're not making the power that the 4.8 made. So it does need a shark on it. That's true. The valve springs are fine. We already running that to set to, it's a dual valve spring with a titanium retainer, so I don't think anything's wrong there. We've run this thing to 7,000 problem. It's making about 8 pounds. I did curse at it a lot. It is, Jesse. The whole thing's unhappy. The motor never sounds good under boost. No, the oil that just came out of the filter that I just took out, it looks clean, which I'm happy about. I would like not for this Big Bang motor not to be hurt. It would disappoint me. I mean, you know, it's it's earned it, definitely, but I like it not to be on something, you know, silly like this. This is no power at all. No, it's not showing blow by. The only thing that we saw was when it was leaking water, you can see vapor coming out, but that's just the water. It's just a condensation. The valve springs are dual valve springs. They're fine. The boost reference is that we're reading is after the intercooler on one of the intake runners. You wish you could have got this one cheap. If we had lifted the head, we would see that, and there would be oil and water, water and oil. There would be all kinds of stuff. All right, guys, I got to go talk amongst yourselves. I got to go get some pizza. Hello. What's up? I was just making sure I have the right building. Yeah. All right. How you doing, my friend? Good. You're from Troy? Yep. All right. Yeah, there'll be lots of action here. That's awesome. Yep. Thanks, Jim. All right. Okay. Yeah, Pizza Pirate, man, the pizza delivery guy must be doing pretty good. He's rolling and he's got a new like little Fiat Turbo. It's awesome. It wasn't an A-bar. I think that's a what are those things called? Like the forced air or something like that. So what they have some weird name for their turbo thing. But it's a tiny little car. I like those. I like the little Fiats. Those are fancy. Fancy. Okay, what do we got going on? Is there a boost leak? I always tip the delivery guy, man. You got to take care of the delivery guys. They're out there earning their keep. Nick, we're not seeing fuel coming out the exhaust. I got enough for everybody, Andy. Come on, join it. I actually got 2 pizzas just for me. That's how I do it. When the 6 liter's not working, I drown my sorrows in pizza. 4200 power. That's what this blower needs to be on, is the 4200. Software ECM issues. We tried. I had Eric try a. We loaded a brand new file because the file could be corrupt. The tune could have fallen out. We tried all of that stuff. How do you convert fly-by-wire throttle bodies to manual? We on the Dyno, we don't run the drive-by-wire stuff. We only run manual ones, except on the Coyote we run those, and I did on the L83 also. Bad glow plugs, I think so. Dude, I got pepperoni and sausage, yo. Look at that. What's up? Yeah, pizza pirate. That'd have been funny if it would have fallen out. Huh? Yeah, it's not going lean. It's 11 and a half, even down as far as, and we've run it everywhere. We tried it at 10. We tried it at a variety of different air fuels just to see if something was going on. Sometimes I do that just to see if it will respond. I don't use that as an absolute. Normally that's working and it's doing what it's supposed to. But I also look for trends. If we add a bunch of fuel and it likes that, then we'll do that. I've seen that on tunnel ram motors where I would put that in the freezer. It's got a little bit of ice in it. That's good stuff. On tunnel ram motors, on carbureted stuff, some of them like to be in the 11s. And when we started up and run it, make pulls, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's 11 and a half NA. Man, I'm gonna tune some power out of this thing now. And when I lean it out, it says, hey, guess what? I was good where I am. That's where I want to make power at. So, we listen to it. How about putting a mark on the belt? Well, we'll need 2 reference points, right? But belt slippage usually rears its ugly head at higher speeds and doesn't manifest itself like this. Believe me, I've run into belt slippage a lot with blowers, all kinds of blowers. These, the centrifugal blowers a lot. I've cursed at belt slippage a lot. It makes me mad. It's stopping us from getting our runs done, but it doesn't happen at 4,500 RPM usually. They went a little skippy on a sausage on one side. Mostly pepperoni in this hood over here. They're not commingling. Yep, got a tip to the delivery guy. Okay, Mike, I need to go back up and answer your question. I have a 2006 rear-wheel drive Trailblazer SS 6-liter. I've done the bolt-ons already for what? Well, Mike, do you want a daily driver kind of cam, or do you want like a hot cam, or how much power you want to make? Andy, I think that would actually be a good test. Andy suggested just pouring the exhaust side of heads and finding out if that does anything. And I'm sure you're thinking about that on the Trailblazer motor, because that's one situation that probably would help a lot. I think that particular thing would be application specific, but we need to create a situation where the exhaust flow is a hindrance, and I think that on that motor it is, if what you're telling me is accurate. Trying to grab my new piece of pizza here. No, there's topic questions. These are all just questions. It's all good. Have you checked the intake adapter gaskets? Those are all like the factory ones. They're all in little recesses, and that could be. But again, if it's losing boost, I don't think that it acts like this. I've done boost leaks before, and that's not what it does. So Mark wants to know, is the comp cam 469? I'm going to run into trouble with piston valve on an LQ9. I don't think so. We run that on an LS2 and LS3. So I know the valve drop is going to be different on the LS3, but an LS2 and an LQ9, your LQ9, does your LQ9 have 317 heads? Does anybody out there know if the valve drop is different on a 317 head than a 243 or a 799? I think they're the same. Eric, what are you doing? I sent you an email with pics of the intercooler disassembled. Please consider pulling those cores out, cap the intercooler, and run it. So you want to run it without the intercooler? It's not the intercooler. We're not at the flow level of even what the 4.8 did yet. So I don't think it can be that. We can try it, but I don't think the cores are. I don't think the cores would be, if we have a restriction. A restriction is like having a small throttle body on there. which works. And then it starts working less and less and less as we go up in RPM. This thing is just falling off. It's falling on its face. We're not even having like a solid 100 horsepower better all the way, and then it goes down to 80 out at the top. That's what a restriction would be. This is acting like something is shut off or closed, and I don't know that the core situation would do that. Plus, we need all that cooling from the Laminova. Could be a sensor malfunctioning. Yeah. So what one would it be? Could we be getting a bad air fuel reading? But we tried going more and going less. It didn't seem to like that. I tried more timing. It did like that, but it was still bad. It was just a little bit better than than all bad. Nero, we're going to do lots of turbo videos. A cracked valve? I hadn't thought of that. I hope not. I don't know why it would have run so good NA though. Dyno, ring gap suggestions. If it's going to be a turbo, then do 28 to 30. Pizza time. Yeah, that's what I was saying, Tim, is that it did that on the 4.8 when we were leaking air because I put the wrong gasket in. I didn't follow directions properly. But I do work well with others. When I did that, it wanted to idle at like 3,500. It was terrible. Low voltage to the coil. Yeah, we would have to check that to see, but. Is the block off plate. This is the plate that covers the machine's bottom section of the blower to fit the LS engine. It's the block off plate near the throttle body sealed. I don't know what that is. If there's a block off plate near the throttle body, that's on the inlet side of the blower. So if that was not sealed, we would have a really, really high idle. It wouldn't be leaking boost. The intake valve cannot be floating because of boost at 4,500, not when the motor runs to 7,000 without any problem. Yep, CA 434. Yep, Mark, we know that, but it's already run with this setup on the 4.8 and not had any problems, and it's already run lots of boost and all kinds of stuff with this kind of setup. Excuse me, at much higher power levels. So unless there's something going on that we're not seeing in the voltage. There's a vacuum diaphragm that is on the front side of the intake. That's your culprit. The vacuum diaphragm that's on the front side is for the bypass valve, if that's what you're talking about. The bypass valve, we think, is staying shut. The default position for the bypass valve is closed, which is what you would want. Under vacuum, it opens that valve. Mafia Killer. Take a look at the videos I have up on the channel called The Big Bang. And we did 1,500 with the stock bottom end 6-liter. Bad fuel. I don't know that. I don't know how bad fuel would have to be to not take 8 pounds of boost and 21 or 22 degrees a time, or 21 or 22 degrees. Dyno 915. Won't cover the beach in California, but that's why I got 2 mediums, because it's cheap. Because they got a special. Because you know how I do it. When the motor's not working, I got to get pizza. Although I should have had some, something to drink. But much appreciated, as my mouth was full. Jeremy should be very concerned about that. If they get their way, if the APA gets their way, they want to not have people doing any modifications to their cars. What mechanical event caused the tensioner to shudder at the moment of what is the moment of collapse? Can you explain to me what that is? Gavel, what do you got? I have an iron LQ9 block, iron 454 block, and an iron 460 block. Assuming a turbo setup, what is the best grudge race? I wouldn't base it on the block. You need to base it on the power and the money. The availability of parts is better for the LS and the big block than it is for the Ford. There's plenty of stuff for Ford too. You can make the power. The turbo is going to dictate how much power you make. I don't know how much power you want. If you want 1,000 horsepower, any of those will work. If you want 2,000 or 3,000, then you're going to have to think about something else. Tyler, I haven't done that yet, but that is where you are doing that. Yes, you can count on VW to do it for you. Test flow the adapter. We already test flowed the adapter. We did that on the 4.8. Yeah, the scramble button is just going to be higher boost. See all of them. The best one I ever saw in regards to wastegate control was, I think it was Christian Rado, back when it was either when he was doing import stuff, drag racing, or it might have been when he was doing time attack. They had, obviously everybody had different wastegate settings, but he had a really cool wastegate. It was a metal plate with a skull and crossbones engraved on it. And they would take the wastegate off and put this cap on the skull and crossbone ones and clamp it in place using the clamp for the wastegate. And that was the all of it one. That was, that was like hill boost, because it would just do whatever the turbo would do. Which if it was his road race car, if it was the time attack car, That's pretty cool. The supercharger actually has pretty good belt wrap on it. Yeah, the belt could have got oil on it, but it's not acting like belt slippage though. Yeah, noodles, but the problem is if the diaphragm breaks, then the bypass valve will never open. It'll stay closed. Now that has me curious. Oh, now I'm out of focus. Come on, come back. Come on. Stupid camera. Here, pizza. This arbitrarily freaks out like that. Come on. There you go. I wonder what direction the valve opens. If it opens against boost or with boost. Jake, yeah, 3800 with the turbo and the super, definitely up on the list. I know I broke the screen. Put a pressure gauge on your port. Drain the cooling system. Check for hairline cracks in the head near the steam port. Great. Now you have to diagnose the camera too. That's why we're all here, though. We're all sharing. I have a whole nother pizza and some bag of peppers and goodies and stuff. Hey, Eric, I'll always come here and ask away. There's lots of sharp guys in here. They'll be able to help answer stuff. Best cam for a Gen 2 LT1. There's lots of good stuff out there. The TPIS guys have a bunch. Comp has some stuff. There's some good mild stuff for that. Are those Castech heads? No, they're TrickFlow heads. They're TrickFlow 225s. What's the most horsepower you would run on 93 octane? I think guys are doing. I think Matt over at Sloppy does 14 pounds, but it's not a lot of timing though. Michael, we don't know what happened. That's what we're trying to figure out. We don't know why it's not making any power. Do you have to modify 5.3 LS to stroke it? Yes, probably so. You might have to notch the bottom of the bores. Fuel pressure is fine. The fuel pressure is not boost referenced, so it's actually dropping a little bit. It's dropping the amount that we have boost, but because we had more than enough injector, we still have, and this is hardly any power at all. It's 4,500 RPM and 650 foot-pounds. I know every cam is a turbo cam. We have a blower on here, so I think that's part of the problem. Gene, it's not valve flow. The thing runs to 7,000 without any problem. Did the cam jump a tooth? That'd be really hard to do. Thanks, Mike. The Nova project is still going. I would really like to have one of these, that Trailblazer SS motor in the Nova. I like 6 cylinders for that Nova. I think that would be cool. There's lots of V8 Novas out there, and that, you know, that works. I like to have 6 cylinder stuff in there. Yeah, I tried spinning the blower, tried by hand, tried spinning the power steering, the water pump, everything, just to make sure that nothing was seized up, and it all seems like it's good. This short block is an LY6. It's the one that we did the big bang for Engine Masters, and I did it before that. That's why that they ended up doing that. Daniel, I have run the K1 stuff. It is good. Yep, we tried changing there's no cam sensor on it because we're not using that. I did try changing the crank sensor. We took one off of a brand new crate motor and put that in there, and it did exactly the same thing. I was really hoping that that was it. They didn't do on Engine Masters, Michael. They Tony and Lucky did a 4.2 build, excuse me, for Hot Rod Garage. And I just, if anybody, you guys should follow me on Instagram too, because I threw some shots at Tony and Lucky, and I told them that I was gunning for them, that I would definitely make more power than they did. and they're really good guys. And I also love and I spoke with him on the phone immediately when I was way back when I decided to try this. The guy with the Trailblazer SS motor in the Studebaker, and now in a Fairmont too. And he's run that thing, and he's run fast in that thing. And I think that, you know, we were talking about in the video that if this thing makes like 330 or 340 or 350, which I think it's going to on the engine dyno, there should be some fairly good power numbers. I mean, if we run 15 pounds on this in E85, we're going to have some pretty decent power out of this thing. Does anyone ever calibrate the dyno? Yes, all the time. And whenever we, even arbitrarily, whenever we think that something is going on and that we want to verify it, and we've even taken motors off of one dyno and put them on this dyno, because there's 2 of them here, just to verify that the thing is doing what it's supposed to do, just because we want to be sure. And that's usually a situation where the motor is not making the power or reacting like this one the way that we think it should. And so we're like, what's going on here? Is the dyno the problem? And it's almost never the dyno is the problem. It's usually something that we did, or the motor, or the engine builder, or whoever. I didn't look see if the belt looks glazed. I can tell you it is an old belt that I happened to find hanging over on the thing at Wastegate, and it turned out to be the right size. I don't even know what it's from. I don't even remember what size it is. Supercharger impeller be slipping on the shaft. I don't know how is it just press fit on the shaft, right? I guess I can look at that and see. The adapters seem to line up the way that they did on the 4.8. Lucas, talk to oh man, why am I having a hard time remembering names? Talk to Jim at TPIS, and he'll get you straight. They've done more of those motors than anybody that I know. John, both of those do good things. You can make power with both of them. I don't see a lot of Clevelands and haven't run nearly as many Clevelands just because we don't have as many of those in the United States like they do over in Australia. They both do cool things. There's lots of, now there's even more stuff available for the Clevelands too. There's lots of aluminum for them. The factory heads are pretty good. They're not great, but they were really good for factory heads. We don't have a mass air meter on this, so I don't know what the airflow rate is. This is speed density. It's not the adapter. Tim, I tried spinning the blower by hand. That's what I wanted to check, if the thing was galled, or if it was hard to turn, if it was and that's why I checked all of those accessories to find out if there was something that was dragging, and everything seems to spin pretty. Yes, I'm interested in AMC 401, and I say that because when I was over cleaning my storage area and putting shelving up, I made a promise that I will not get any more new motors until I get rid of some of the ones that I have, and here I am. But it's a 401. It's always something. Lots of Clevelands up in Canada. Nice. Put on a mass airflow meter. I'll just grab one of those really quick and hook it up to the Holly. Yeah, we're checking to see if the motor is hurt. I don't know if that's the case, but that's, we got to look there first. And then if we eliminate that, then it's got to not be that. Then it's got to be something above it or attached to it, electronics or. Yes, it's injector timing, Jesse. I wish that I knew what it was. I wish I could say that we're only getting 3 volts to the to the coil packs or something like that. The GT45 is going to be too small for a 6.2. You're going to want to have something bigger than that, like a 78, 75 or a 75, an S475. Yeah, I need to run the motor again, NA, to see if it's still alive, I guess. Injector timing, I don't know how that could be it, because we, like I said, we just hooked it up this way and ran the 4.8, and I don't play with injector timing when we do that. How big is the LS crank pulley? It's a factory truck crank pulley. Manny, that's a really good idea, because I've actually had that happen before. The reluctor wheel on a crankshaft might have moved. I know that my buddy Bernie, on one of the race cars for Daytona, that actually happened. The guy was roaring around, doing well in the car in their Daytona prototype, and the thing just went to heck in a handbasket. And he radioed in and said, "Hey, the thing's like running hot, and there's no power." And they're like, because they're logging the whole race, so they're watching it on the computer. They're like, "Yeah, what the heck's going on?" The guy who did their crankshaft took out some of the mounting hub, basically, for where that register's at, because he's trying to lighten the crank. And unfortunately, it wasn't fully welded, and it allowed the gears spin around on the crankshaft, and then all the timing goes off, and it's not happy at all. We are doing batch. I'm not doing sequential because I don't have the cam hooked up. It could be I need a different converter. Fernando, I don't recommend the LS9 camshaft for the turbo. Every cam is a turbo cam except the LS9. Actually, lots of guys use it and it works just fine. It just is really soft down low. So there are better cams for you. There are better cams NA than the LS9, and so therefore, excuse me, there are better cams under boost. Something that was overlooked in the tune. You only have two things. You just got air fuel and you got timing. Those are the two major things. I don't know what else it would be. Mike, how are you asking how long it took to go through 10 gallons of fuel? This was during the day while I was trying to get the thing to run and work and take throttle and all of that. So it was over a fairly long period of time. And it's gallons of E85 also. How straight is the belt? You mean which direction it wraps all around there? Or you mean in this direction? The impeller shaft for the blower might be busted, but it moves by hand. Ryan, did you not watch the video? The boost curves are in the video. Shame on you for not watching it and then coming on here and admitting it. Everybody make fun of Ryan. I always save the crust for my wife. She likes the crust. Can you manually adjust on the fuel map on a Holley ECU? That's all that I do is manually adjust it. I don't run it under closed loop. It doesn't self-tune at all. The self is myself. Points. That was one of my favorite shows. Chris Hardwick. Parker, 278 is going to be kind of big. Eric, what are you doing? You can't just keep throwing money away. I'm a lost cause. I got plenty of pizza to keep me happy. Maybe we should walk out and try to spin the blower. I already did that. Does the blower oil have something to do with it? Is this blower supposed to have oil in it? We're using HP. Yeah, there could be a tornado in there. Ryan's my boy, but you know, if you're here, you got to be ready for it. Yep, it's time for me to do a leak down test and maybe a compression test since it's still on the dyno. And I guess I could, if everything turns out okay, and the leak down's okay, and the oil looks okay, then I will take the blower out at NA again. And if I do, I'll sneak that in tonight because I've got to do another motor. But I'll try to do that. If the thing is okay, And then if it is, and it's not the motor, then we have to come up with something else. What else is it? Set up your Patreon, or else, right? Don't make me keep doing super chats. That's more power. Maybe we did. Maybe we set the Holley for a 6-cylinder, because it's only making 6-cylinder power. You can get something between a GT45. Tim, somebody suggest a Garrett or something for this guy that wants to run between a GT45 and an S475. I don't know the Garrett lineup that much. John, I've got a few things. What did I just find today? I found a big block tunnel ram for EFI. I found a Hemi-Cam, if anybody's looking for a mild Hemi-Cam. Michael Jordan steps up, and a heck of a basketball player too. A Hemi-Cam. What else did I find? That's what happens when I'm cleaning up stuff. I find all sorts of things that are laying around. What else do we see? A nice supercharged 6-liter. Best turbo for early. Yeah, the lower oil thing was a joke. That's not, it wouldn't have lasted the 4.8. $1,200 for a M122, only if it comes with the rest of the motor. Do I have any 4.6.2 valve guys out there? Is anybody interested in a 4.6.2 valve with forged pistons set up for boost? How can we swap a cam without pulling heads on the LS? That's easy. You just get rods out, spin the cam around, and if it has something that's not 250,000 miles, the lifters will go up into lifter trays and they just hold in place. And then you just slide the cam out and slide the new one in and hope the lifters don't drop. We have little dowels that we put in that hold the lifters in place. Put the new cam in, tighten it all back up, push the lifters back down, put the push rods on, put the rockers on, and away you go. Morgan, what's up? The cam for the Hemi is it's either like a 268 or a 273, I think. Would it be worth it to turbo an LO5 motor? Yes, always. Yeah, the TBI stuff is hard because if you're going to run it, if you're going to continue with the TBI, most people are taking that off. But the TBI is limited in fuel production, just like the 350 version. Why don't you like D-stroke motors? I do. I really like them. I like them a lot. I like the DZ302, and I love the fact that we're going to do the same the LT1 and combine the L99 and the LT1. But I don't dislike them, and I don't like them more than other motors. I like them the same amount, because when I test stuff and I show you guys what it does, I show you what a D-stroke motor does. And a smaller D-stroke motor makes less power than one that has more stroke. It has nothing to do with stroke. It has everything to do with displacement. A bigger motor makes more power. A 5.3 makes more power than a 4.8 does. And a 6.0 and a 6.2, they all have more power. So if you take a 6.0 or a 6.2 and de-stroke it, you've taken displacement away from it, and it's gonna make less power. That's just what they do. That doesn't stop them from being cool. If you ask somebody that is a fan of a 69 Camaro whether they'd rather have a 350 or a DZ02, nobody's going to pick the 350, even though it's a more powerful motor. They would all pick the DZ302 because, you know, they run to 9,500 RPM just in stock trim, like everybody says. So the coolness is one thing, and then the reality of it is a different thing. Jason, the pulley ratios are nice, except that we ran exactly this on the 4.8. Nothing has changed, so that's not new. That's not overspeeding. None of that is worrisome on the 6.0 compared to the 4.8, because all of this whole front accessory stuff all just came off the same crank pulley, all of it, and they just went on the 6.0. So if we were overspeeding anything, we were overspeeding it with the 4.8 already, which is smaller, which we would have seen a lot of boost with, and I don't think that's happening. Michael, what's up? This is fun. I can throw dollars at you and not get in trouble with my wife. When you figure out the issue of the 6.0, can you do a 91 octane run? I did 91 octane stuff on the 4.8. So all you do is just take a bunch of timing out of it, and that's kind of no fun. But for you, for that amount of money, obviously we have to do it, because I can get a whole nother pizza now. Lucas, so you're saying an L98 5.7 makes more power than a 5.3? No, I'm not saying that. I was comparing all of the LS family. I thought that's what we were talking about. But an L98 makes more power than an LB9, a 5.7 versus a 5.0. And an L98 would make more power than a 302 version, even if it's not a 305 version, would make more power than a 302 version of that motor. I just jumped in. The 6-liter, we can't get it to run very well with the blower yet. The Atlas will make 450 unopened. They've done it before on other shows. It's not a bear, and it doesn't come close. So I just stepped in to be mean to everybody. That's good. Yeah, the block's gone to 15. The everything except for the camshaft has all gone to 1500. So the block crank rods, pistons, the heads, all of it. We had a different cam in it, but it was only a stage 3 turbo cam. It's not a whole bunch bigger than this one. I believe E85 is worth spending the money on. First of all, it costs less at the pump than the pump gas does. It certainly does in California. I'm sure that's like that everywhere else too. The nice thing is that you get extra power just from the E85 by itself, and you also now can turn the timing up and run real timing in your turbo motor, where you can't do that on pump gas on 91. The XFI 236 works good. Yeah, Tyler, that's what I'm thinking, is that in all of this nonsense that I was doing, going through all this fuel and trying to get the thing to run right, that it hurt the motor during that process before we started loading it. That's certainly possible. And that's why I want to check it. No diesels. Yeah, I've tested cam motion stuff. I like Steve over there. He does good work. This blower should work fine on a stock LS1. The boost is down on this one because the 4.8 was at 11 pounds because it makes less NA power. It's smaller and makes less power. You don't need a positive displacement blower cam with an M122. You can put any cam in it that you want. The E85 costs less per gallon was my point, John. Yeah, and Tim's right. That's why I like it, because it's way cheaper than race gas. If you compare E85, what you can do with it, it's awesome because it adds power. You can run time and you can run boost. You can make lots and lots and lots of power with it. And for here, it's like 250 or 260 a gallon, and your race fuel might be $10 or $15 a gallon. So it's just not. It's not even close. Yeah, James from Montana. Did we pin the crank? Yeah, we did. Luckily, I had a kit from Torque Storm, and they supplied that, and I used it a couple of times. I use it on the 4.8, and I use it on this one. As a matter of fact, I used the dampener from the 4.8, but I couldn't use. I don't know if you guys have ever tried that. I thought, and this was long ago, would it be a really good idea? Because I already have half the hole drilled on the damper side, right? Because I had already used that on the other crank. So now all I got to do is drill half the hole. I don't know if you guys have ever had any success at drilling half a hole, but it doesn't really work very well. John, who is that? Jory Haggerty from Montana. In relation to Dan, I'm sure you hear that all the time. What size cam should I use with a 3200 stall converter on 6-liter LS2? You can put a lot of cam in that thing. You should put the 469 comp cam or something like that, something that's a 231, 247 kind of thing. Mark, you're out. Okay, thanks. We'll talk tomorrow. E85 in Houston's $1.95. Yeah, anywhere else in the United States, it's going to be a lot less than California. Thanks, Richard. How many drill bits did it take to drill half the hole? It would have taken all of them if I would have kept going. Is the big head going on a turbo motor? What is the most lift and duration you can run on a stock bottom end LQ9? That comp 459 cam is getting really, really close. So somewhere in the 231, and it's going to be near 600 lift. The lift has almost no effect at all on the piston to valve clearance. It's almost all in the duration. Michael's in for $5. Another slice of pizza. Let's see. I have an LQ9. Oh, you retracted his message just when I was reading it. I don't think I've ever run an angle cam in anything. John, the blower ran out of breath, but it had plenty of breath for the 4.8 to make even more power. I want to know how that's possible. Crank the 6.0 without ignition and fuel and listen for weak cylinders. I'm going to go do a compression test right now, so that will tell me. No, I'm very big. I'm a big deal in Montana. I don't know if you guys realize that. You can run 12-to-1 with boost. You just have to have lots and lots of octane. See, somebody watched the push rod length video. The Ozman's here. Yeah, you already gave your weekly credit, right? You're good. I think we know what John will tell us what the issue is. Daniel, I just answered that question. Have you ever used a trick flow cam in any of your tests? Yeah, lots of trick flow cams. We used the sloppy stage 2 that I used was actually a trick flow cam. No, the blower on the 6.0 didn't run out of boost. I think we ran out of something else first. Eric, what projects do you have here? I had currently at Wastegate. I should have walked you guys around. It seemed like all of these motors came here. So I have the Slat 6 is here. The Cadillac is here. I have 2 LS motors here. I have the Pontiac motor here. I now have a 462 valve here. So I have way more than I need here. When can we see the Ameribera? That's what we're working on. I just picked it up. Mr. Arizona, what's up? Thank you very much. You got to come up with a question. 17. So I got 3 minutes. At an hour and 20 minutes, I'm on with you guys. I got to get going. An 8.1 would be cool, but I don't have one of those. I want to get one. Uh, 4 to 8 pounds. See, 4 to 8 pounds is a really big range. That's a big difference in power. Changing the clutch masters on the engine dyno. Yeah, I'm excited about the 4200 stuff too. Especially since I just found that the OBX guys make a knockoff 6-into-1 header that I was looking up last night. Yeah, I'm going to check the blower and make sure that it's still connected, because that kind of seems like it might not be, although it didn't lose all the boost. It lost some of the boost. Maybe the bypass I was opening a little bit, but it's just none of those things make sense that it's coming back like that. Oh, Brant did? Wow. I don't know about a comparison between the CAD blower and the Wyon blower. There's a bunch of different Wyon blowers though. James, wow, that's big money. That's pizza money, yo. The ticking sound is probably a lifter. That's common on the LS stuff. Daniel, they've run a couple of those STS rear turbos on the chassis dyno, but we've never run one on the engine dyno until I had to make my own. Yeah, I'm going to look and see if the bypass is somehow opening, but we would have a big drop in boost though if that happened. If you monitor airflow, it would be at maximum horsepower. Oh, let's see. Okay, gotta get going. Gotta take some countermeasures. Uh-oh, I lost my camera again. Come back in, and zoom. Come on, there we go. There we go. John, what's up? And send him to remedy the boost. I will report it back. David, thank you for all you do. Okay, guys, I have to get going. I'm going to go take this thing apart. I'm going to do a compression test. We'll do a leak down. I'll try to play with the blower a little bit more. I'll try to figure out what's going on maybe with bypass or any of that stuff and try to figure out. And if I do figure it out, all of you guys on the live feed will be the first ones to hear about it because I may or may not do a video on it. So you guys will be the only guys to hear about it. And you should, because you guys are here every night. That's what you guys get. Thanks for all the support. I will see you guys tomorrow.